over it in detail on the live stream again, but it's just kind of absurd. This is what this moron who is a professor at NYU and says crypto is the mother of all scams. This is his testimony to a Senate committee, and it's just so absurd. Just a couple points I'll mention. I don't want to go through it again because the YouTube has been muted this whole time, but I'll mention a couple points. Like, he says somewhere, let's see, hold on. Behind the scammy tether. It's just funny. It's like the bias. Here we go. So he said, this guy said,
this drop is it? No, we've seen bigger drops than this one.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the interesting things is, one of the things he says is with Tether, let me find where this idiot says this. Even so-called stablecoins have only partial backing at best with true US dollar reserves, or, like Tether, most likely no backing at all, as there has never been a proper audit of the accounts. So the joke I made is like, Bob is an asshole. I've never met Bob, but most likely he's an asshole. So the guy says there's never been a proper audit of the accounts, so we have no idea how much money they do have, so most likely they have no money. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard a professor. That's absolutely absurd. He also said Bitcoin is the biggest bubble, crypto is the biggest bubble ever. There's never been, a rise and a fall this bad in any other bubble, including Tulip Mania and blah, blah, blah. But this isn't even the biggest crash of Bitcoin ever. Bitcoin crashed 92% when Mt. Gox got hacked in 2014. So this isn't even the biggest drop that Bitcoin has seen. So it's just so absurd. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. This is the most biased thing I've ever read. This guy is an absolute idiot. I would love to call him out on those things. Really? All right, so you're a professor at NYU in finance. Let me ask you a couple basic questions about what you wrote. How do you know this if there's never been an audit that you would say, X? And do you know what the biggest drop in Bitcoin ever was? Because clearly not. Like, what an idiot. The fact that I can breeze over this thing in 30 seconds and identify points. Oh, there's also regular 51% attacks. That's not true. It's actually very, very hard to achieve a 51% attack. You need to control an insane amount of mining rigs. So yeah, this guy's an idiot.
Is it the fact that China can realize it?
Huh?
Is it the fact that China could realize that? 51.
Well, I mean, if all the mining rigs in China decided to work together, but doing that would not be in their self-interest because that would hurt Bitcoin. And a lot of mining rigs are moving out of China because they're charging too much for energy now.
But it's too much centralized because of the mining companies. Don't you think?
This dude is just maybe he's just a lobbyist from the banks or something. I don't know. All right, well, this is enough. I'm not going to spend any more time on this. Oh, here we go. I have no conflict of interest. Man. I kind of want to write this guy. Lambos refer to the crypto obsession with stealing investors' money to buy luxury energy-hogging cars. Are you serious? Lambos refer to the crypto obsession with stealing investors' money to buy luxury energy hogging cars. Okay.
Whales are large early crypto billionaires who are stuck with their fake wealth, but they're the suckers of retail investors.
They're stuck with their fake. Sure. So, guys, you know what's ridiculous is what's absolutely crazy about this is you guys know I've told you before how I've coordinated and worked on some OTC deals. I have a lot of contacts that I know in the space who are looking to buy or to sell very, very large amounts of Bitcoin. 10,000 Bitcoin, 25,000 Bitcoin, in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've put people in touch and made some of these deals happen. I'm actually waiting for one that we're working on now, which if it goes through, it could be good for me. I could get a great finder's fee out of it. But it's actually very hard to find buyers now. So one of my contacts knows somebody who is starting a hedge fund, and they wanted to buy 10,000 Bitcoin. And we've been struggling to find anybody willing to sell it at a discount. And most of the time with OTC deals, you would go for a discount, anywhere from 3 to 5%, sometimes 2%, depending on the size of the transaction. Right now, the only seller that we've been able to find is only willing to sell 10,000 Bitcoin at a... You all right, Judd? Hold on, my wife's screaming. What's up? What happened? Oh, it scared me.
Ooh, that baby's coming. Yeah.
Huh? All right, I'll fix it.
Always gonna have to have a bathtub.
So, what was I saying? What was I saying? Yeah, so with these OTC deals, I got one seller who I was told by one of my contacts is willing to potentially sell 10,000 Bitcoin at a +1 premium, meaning the buyer would have to pay over the spot price by 1%. If there are these large institutional investors buying hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin and they're not willing to sell it, and I know that firsthand, I have that information in my head. I've dealt with these people personally, but this guy apparently is such an expert that that these guys are just stuck with their useless crypto wealth. It's so absurd. I really kind of want to write this guy and just tell him how moronic he is. Seems like he did some research, possibly, but I don't know if he spoke to.
If you do send him with a box of Kleenex with it.